So first we'll take a look at function expressions in JavaScript. So we have already learned how to use functions. We know how to use functions, pass parameters to functions. We have looked at default parameters, rest parameter with functions, all these things. So how do you declare a normal function? It is a function. You can give some function name, test function, and say I'll just log something to the console like it's a normal function. This is what we are doing here. And let me run this. Before running, we have to invoke this function, test function. So this is how you create a normal function in JavaScript, and you can run this. So you can very well see the output to the right. It's a normal function. Now we have something called function expressions in JavaScript. What is that? Say I can convert this function to a function expression. We can assign that to a variable. Say for instance constant. I'll call this variable to be test. And now I assign a function, that is function, and there is no name for this function. You don't give any name for this function. Within two curly parentheses, you can give the body for the function. Say it's a function expression. So this is the normal function. This is a function expression. How you invoke this function expression is you use the variable name and then you invoke test. That's it. Now when I run this, you will see both these functions getting invoked. So Control S and Shift Alt N. First one is a normal function. I am invoking it like this. Second one is a function expression. It's a function expression. So you can very well use function expressions in JavaScript wherein a variable is going to be taking up a function. Now there are certain things when you are using a function expression. What is possible is you can have any other variable, say constant my function, some variable I can have. I can assign this function to that variable. So this kind of variable assignment is possible, which is not possible with a normal function declaration. So you can use it as a variable. Now if I'm going to call test, I can very well use my function. So now if I run this, you can very well see it's a function expression. So this kind of an assignment, you can treat it like a variable and assign it to other variables. And you can call that variable and that function is going to run. One of the key differences here is, here we are not going to give a function name and it's assigned to a variable. This is the syntax difference. What are the difference we have when we compare this with a normal function? So let me take a normal function again. So let me take a normal function, function test function. So this is a normal function we have, and we'll call this a normal function. It's a normal function. And how will I invoke this? Where will be the call to this function? See, I can invoke this here as a test function. So when I run this, you will see the output. It's a normal function. You can also invoke this normal function before the declaration. See, I can invoke it even before the function declaration. I can invoke this. So when I invoke this, will there be any issues? There will be no issues. You'll get the output. You're declaring the function here, but you're invoking it even before declaring it. This is possible in JavaScript. They call this concept to be hoisting. Hoisting in the sense, when you have this kind of a code, what JavaScript does is it first moves the function declaration before the function call. So even when you call it, it's able to invoke it. So when you're having normal functions, this is possible. Whereas when you're having this function expression, say I have this function expression here. How will I create this function expression like this? CLG, it's an expression, let's say. Now I can't invoke it like this. I can't perform it. When I perform this, I'll be getting a reference error. So this is one of the differences. See, you'll get a reference error, cannot access test before initialization. So this is again one of the major differences between function expression and a normal function. Otherwise, you can treat this like you can pass parameters. How will you pass parameters to this? Say I have x and y, two parameters. Maybe I'll log the sum of these two numbers, x plus y I'll do. So I can perform all the basic things. I can call test pass 3 comma 2. So what will be the output here? It will be 5. 5 is the output. So you can treat it like any function with parameters. It can also return a value. Say I can return x plus y. This is also possible. When it returns, what you have to do, you should have another variable, let result. So you should use another variable to capture the return value, and you can console log that result out. So let's take a look at this. It's 5. So you can pass parameters. You can very well return values from a named. You can return values from a function expression. You can do all these things. Only things is it's assigned to a variable, and you'll use that variable to invoke that function. Are you able to follow this? So there is one specific exemption here. See, you can also have a name for this function. Say I can have a name for this function. Say I'll call this test function. This is possible. And what is the use of having a name here? See, I can very well have a name here, but I cannot invoke the function using this name. I cannot perform test function 3 comma 2. I cannot perform this. Say, let me console log this from within this x plus y. I am giving a name for my function here, but then I can't invoke that function with this name. Let's run this. Reference error comes, but this is allowed. So you call that to be a named function expression. What is the named function expression? You're going to have a function expression wherein the function has a name. Then what is the use of this name here is used for referring the function inside the function. You can refer this name only within the function. You cannot call that function using that name. When will you use a function name inside a function? When you're going with recursions, right? So it's mostly for recursion. Say, let's create a factorial. Let's find the factorial using recursion. Say, fact will pass n value. And what we'll do here is we'll compute factorial using recursion. Very simple thing, which we know, right? What is the check we are going to do? If n is less than equal to 1, then we'll return 1. Else, we'll compute the factorial. That is return, what is that? N star fact of n minus 1. So here we are using the function name within the function, right, to compute factorial. But how will you invoke this function? It is called test. That's how you invoke. Maybe we'll find the factorial for 3. So this is going to return some values. Let's say let result is equal to test of that. And now let's console log result. What will be the output here? Shift Alt N. 6. So factorial for 3 is 6. So what is that we understand here is we have a concept called name function expression, wherein we can give a name to our functions inside the expression. The only way we can use this name is we can refer that within the function. That's mostly in recursive functions. But you cannot use this name to invoke the function from outside. You have to only use the variable name here. So that's all about function expressions. I hope you are able to follow this. Were you all able to code this?